Good day, folks. Everything new under the sun. All right, I think I fixed my audio. I think the gain was a bit too high on the microphone last time. So thank you for your feedback there. Now, I did a video a while back. This was a video I did 5 reasons not to buy an Ecoflow Delta Pro Ultra. Now, I don't necessarily have anything bad against these units. They're super nice looking, super fancy, perfect for gadget geeks and those who like tech. They have all the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi compatibility, and you know, it's plug and play. Any dummy can kind of pick these up and safely use them as backup power. And I had a number of reasons why you shouldn't buy them. And one of them is that they are absolutely hackable. Now, here's case in point. This video here, this is by Daniel Reviews. And not nagging on him or picking on him, but he had an issue where he had an Ecoflow Delta Pro or whatever it was, and then he had 2 extra batteries that were plugged into it. And for whatever reason, they got an automatic firmware update. So I guess they were connected to Wi-Fi or through Bluetooth through his phone because of the app and all that thing. And they automatically downloaded some new firmware, which absolutely bricked the second battery. Now, it took him days and days to work with Ecoflow to get the firmware fixed and updated while he could not use the second battery of basically the 3, because the main unit has a battery and then he had 2 extras. And you know, what's going to happen when things go sideways, when stuff hits the fan, China cuts off the supply chain and we're in economic collapse or World War III or some natural disaster, and you don't have access to this battery because somehow it downloaded a firmware update and it bricked itself. Or worse, how easy is it for hackers, now these are mostly made in China, or Taiwan or wherever they're made. Most of them do come from China. You know that China knows how to get in the back door of these things. If you have it connected to the Wi-Fi, if it's tethered to your phone through Bluetooth, and they can update the firmware, you know they can get it in it otherwise. If it's connected at all to the internet, probably some hacker somewhere is going to be able to get into your system, fiddle with it, maybe shut it down, maybe cause parameters to be so out of whack that it will destroy itself. I'm talking about all-in-one inverters, batteries with smart BMSs that connect to Bluetooth apps. Not only China, Russia, or even the United States intelligence agencies, they can get into these apps. They have full access to these things. And as long as your internet is up, they can connect to these things. And it doesn't have to be in a grid down situation. They can plant, like a time bomb, a date, for example, for the firmware to do something, i.e. shut down or brick itself, and you wouldn't even know. And this is why you need to have air gap security. And that means not connecting anything to Wi-Fi. Now, it is nice to have monitoring, of course, of your batteries and these sorts of things. But when you're getting this Ecoflow type system and you're going to rely on it when the grid goes down and you're all of a sudden having issues with firmware bricking the units, how do you know that there wasn't nefarious firmware put on there? Or if Ecoflow can push a firmware update down to it, which they did in this case, then how do you know that some other hacker can't do the same and put a bad firmware patch on that completely bricks the unit? Again, in terms of access, command and control of intelligence agencies, whether foreign or domestic, they can get into these devices. This is no-brainer stuff. They can access this. They can send it commands. They can update firmware. These things are computers these days. And this is why I'm saying you need to be careful. Now, I have a solar system. I built the battery myself, but I do have inverters, which are connected to the internet through third-party software, Solar Assistant, which connects on a Raspberry Pi through some COM cables to the inverters. And that Raspberry Pi, that Solar Assistant, can do some minor updates. It can change a couple of settings on it, but not everything. It can't do a firmware update. It can't completely shut the unit down. So it's limited. Now, I don't know if there's more access that you can get through that. I'm sure a hacker is going to Russia or China, they're going to have hackers who can maybe get into that kind of stuff. So you got to kind of do what you can to make your system as secure as you can and as off limits to enemy parties as possible. This is why I don't like a lot of these new Ecoflow units and the Blue Eddies and even the new fancy Jackeries. I have a Jackery 1500. There is no Bluetooth on it. There is no Wi-Fi. There is no app for the Jackery 1500. It is a tank. It is heavy. It has an on and off button. It just works. The only thing that's going to take that thing out is an EMP. And, that's an EMP is another thing to deal with, but an EMP is really less likely, honestly, than a cyber attack of some sort. A cyber attack is one of the easiest ways to take down a country. And when China and Russia and cyber attack, agencies and groups, military, arms are let loose, look out, they're coming for everything that's connected through your Wi-Fi, and likely have already backdoors planted in them, honestly speaking, at this point. And so I do not like units that have Bluetooth. You can shut that off. You can shut off the Wi-Fi. You can have the Wi-Fi only come on during the day, maybe special hours. The perfect situation is if you just have just look at the screen on the particular unit. You don't have it connected to anything. You look at the screen. And if you have to do a firmware update, you connect it temporarily to get a proper firmware update from the company. But if there's nothing wrong with the firmware, look at the release notes for it. If there's nothing specifically wrong for it, or there's not a feature you're trying to access, don't bother updating. If it works, it works. There's no reason to get a new firmware update. And again, how have some of the latest hacks happened in the United States and Canada? It's happened because, a wrong firmware update was pushed out. I forget what the latest the name the name probably won't come to me, but it's there was a cybersecurity company that blue screened all the Windows PCs, a huge, like thousands, even millions of Windows PC users had their computers blue screen because a security update was pushed down to a particular security monitoring software, and it bricked them all. And that was not a nefarious actor. That was a company that did an oopsie. There was another case in Canada where all the telecom went down for, I think it was Rogers, and cell phones across the nation went out. You couldn't, because cell phones were down, a lot of the ATMs, and you couldn't use your credit cards and your debit cards because a lot of them apparently used the back-end network of the cellular network, and they were down because someone updated a configuration file wrong. Oops. Right? So these aren't even nefarious actors that are going after things and taking down everything. This is why you need to get your house in order. Be off grid as much as possible, as much as humanly possible. Have fewer apps on your phone because that's an entry point. Have a Faraday cage for your phone. What are they going to do? What did they do during COVID? They tracked everybody's phone. They pinged everybody's phone, watched where they were going to make sure they complied with the lockdowns. That's what the Canadian military admitted to doing in Canada. So they know where you're going. They can see you. They can track you. They hear everything. They see everything through their cameras. Don't assume that they can't turn on the camera and microphone in your TV, your Samsung TV. If it's connected to the internet, they have access to that. Hackers have access to that. There's always a way in. There's a back door. Those TVs automatically update their firmware every so often as well. If you have that feature turned on, you can turn that off. I don't know if that means that Samsung, if that limits Samsung from getting in there and remotely turning it on. I'm sure they have a back door. All these countries, they're always thinking about the future and military options. And so you need to be careful about what you set up. Have your solar system set up so it's air gapped, so there's no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth as much as possible. And then have a secondary system. Have a Jackery. Have something else that's sitting in the corner that you don't use that's not connected to anything. Because if someone takes out one thing, then at least you have another thing ready to go. So this is just a big red flag to me, honestly, that batteries were bricked because of firmware update. What do you think is going to happen during World War III when nefarious countries, nation states, actually try and hack in and just start destroying and disrupting any of your electronics, any and all of them? What happens when the government wants to crack down on you for some reason? And martial laws imposed, and they want to command and control everything, or they want to ping and see who has Ecoflow deltas because maybe they need to use them for the army, and so they're going to march to your door and say, I see you have an Ecoflow delta because we scan the internet and we see you're pinging back to wherever, and we need this for our purposes, and the military can confiscate that. So that's a real problem with electronics, and being a prepper and being ready for the last days. When catastrophe happens, you have no idea what lengths people will go to get it. You have no idea what could take it out of commission, destroy it, which complications you might encounter. This guy encountered a complication where one of his batteries was bricked. If that was in a life or death situation, he would have been out to lunch. He would have not had Ecoflow support on the phone. He was emailing them, right? So you're left with what you have when the lights go out. And when the lights go out, you better hope your equipment works, that it's not compromised, and that it continues to work. So simple. Build your batteries from scratch if you can, individual cells. Take electronics off it, disconnect it from Wi-Fi, from Bluetooth. Get rid of the app. Have a hardwired screen if you want, so that you can monitor it, but don't have anything digital over connected to the internet. That's kind of the ideal. So that's my rant for Ecoflow and battery backup systems, solar systems, jackeries, and all these sorts of things. You need to be aware of this stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.